Recall that after the U.S. went in and captured Maduro, he was asked whether the U.S. would throw its weight behind Machado as the successor, whether the U.S. would call for new elections in Venezuela, and she would, in all likelihood, win those elections. And he didn't have a lot of vocal support for her. He questioned whether she had internally the support to run the country. And peeling back the layers through a bunch of reporting, later found out that he was not ready to throw his weight behind her because there were questions of what kind of instability would happen in the country if you took out the remains of the Maduro regime, all while the U.S. is trying to sort of rectify a lot of the situations there when it comes to oil, when it comes to infrastructure, getting rid of bad actors from countries like China and Iran in Cuba, trying to sort of decapitate cartels and remove bad actors from that area. So in the interim, the U.S. has been working with Maduro's vice president, now the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, and the president has indicated that she could remain in power for some time. So today, Machado came to the White House to meet with President Trump, and she, of course, won the Nobel Peace Prize. There was an open question about whether she would give her Nobel Prize to the president, who sort of openly lobbied for it. He has often remarked that he, brought peace to 8 wars, concluded 8 wars, and there's any number of reasons why he should have been the recipient. The Nobel Committee made their decision, and it's not transferable. But even Vice President Pence, former Vice President Pence, added his voice to the names of people who were saying if she wants to ever be in power in Venezuela, maybe she should just leave it on his desk today. So we're going to see the president at 4 o'clock. He has an event, but we have not heard from him yet, and we are all eager to know how his meeting went with Machado. Of course, whether there is a Nobel Peace Prize sitting in the Oval Office right now that is not just dedicated to Trump, as she did when she received it, but maybe in his possession. And we are all, the bigger news is we're all waiting to see what happens with Iran. The U.S. had been removing some military personnel from stations or from air bases in Qatar and the surrounding area out of concern that Iran would retaliate if President Trump followed through with his threat to intervene potentially militarily in the event of a violent crackdown on the protesters in Iran. The protests there are now in their 3rd week. The documented number of killings exceeds 2,500 according to human rights groups, but that's expected to rise because there's been an internet blackout for over a week. The arrests for protesters were, as of yesterday, I think it was 18,000. So the president's been mulling his response, and there are a lot of voices who are encouraging him, Lindsey Graham among them, to seize this moment and decapitate the regime. But that might not be so easy to do, and there's been a lot of analysis on what kind of result that could bring. Potentially, some analysts have said it could end up rallying the Iranian people against the West in a way that is unexpected. Mark Warner, he's the Democrat vice chair on the Senate Intel Committee, said that the last time the U.S. took an intervention like that in Iran, some would say it led to the Ayatollahs. So there are the critics discouraging that action, and there's new reporting from the New York Times that I just talked to Karoline Leavitt about in the briefing room, alleging that Bibi Netanyahu discouraged the president from kinetic strikes out of concern of how Iran might retaliate in the region. She didn't confirm the contents of their conversation, but she did confirm that they talked. Now, all that to say, you recall back last year when the U.S. took that amazing action on the nuclear facilities in Iran, obliterated their capability. It looked like he gave sort of a fake out, the president, indicating maybe we're not going to take any strikes, and then he did it. So the rhetoric that maybe the killing has ended and maybe we're not going to do anything, what does that mean? Everyone's still sort of watching and waiting, and we are right along with you, watching and waiting. Hopefully we'll hear more at 4 o'clock, but for now I'm going to head back inside because it is so cold. See you guys later.